Hi guys, thank you so much for tuning in once again. This is Batok with Ola. My name is Mujola Lua. That's where the Ola is from. And finally, we are going into the much anticipated area of law that you all have been clamoring for on the channel. On our last community post, no, second to the last before the recording of this video now, I asked that what area of law would you like to see more of, and a lot of people, a lot of the respondents kept saying company law, corporate law, company law, corporate law. So we're going into company law and corporate law as the case may be from now on. Of course, we're going to be talking about other aspects of law and other areas as usual on the channel, but I'm making a promise to include corporate law and company law more as content on the channel. So today we're going to be talking about incorporation. We're starting from the very basics. So we're going to be talking about company law for law students at the university level, college, if you would have it, and corporate law for Nigerian law school students and for lawyers, and both for laymen. So let's ride along. What is incorporation? Incorporation just means registering a company. Registering a company. You know that in Nigeria, company law, corporate law, the whole works is largely governed by the Company and Allied Matters Act 2020. So it's a new act, 2020. Not really new, but fairly new anyways. You know, it was 2010 before. Then a new one came up in 2020. So that's what governs, most of these aspects of that's what governs this aspect of law generally. And there are some other laws, and regulations which we'll probably encounter as we go on. If you look at the Company and Allied Matters Act, it provides for the features that will help you identify what a company is and what makes a company, and how incorporation works. That is, when you say that a company has been incorporated, what does it mean for the company? What does it mean for the shareholders, for the members of the company, and for all stakeholders? So we're going to be looking at that. Incorporation, like I said, means the formal registration of a company in Nigeria with the Corporate Affairs Commission. So when you register a business as a company, you're said to be incorporating the business. So it becomes a company. So there are types of registrations. We're going to be talking about that. But let me read to you section 42 of CAMA. That's Company and Allied Matters Act 2020. It says that as from the date of incorporation mentioned in the certificate of incorporation, the subscriber of the memorandum, together with such other persons as may from time to time become members of the company, shall be a body corporate by the name contained in the memorandum, capable forthwith of exercising all the powers and functions of an incorporated company, including the power to hold land and have perpetual succession and a common seal, but with such liability on the part of the members to contribute to the assets of the company in the event of its being wound up as mentioned in this act. So what does that say? It says to us that when a company is incorporated, when a business is said to be incorporated, it now has perpetual succession. That is, if somebody dies, maybe the CEO or the managing director or one of the directors, it doesn't mean the death of the business. And this is important because for sole proprietorships, for solely owned businesses like one-man businesses, when the owner dies, they say high likelihood that the business dies with the owner. But for companies, it doesn't happen that way. That is why, for instance, when you put your money in the bank, when they say that the MD of the bank has died, your money is still there. The bank is still there because the MD is different from the company, and we'll talk about it more. When someone owns a bank, for instance, if someone starts a bank now, I'm just using a bank, it's the example that came, easily to me. So, or maybe someone starts a company, maybe something Flour Mills Nigeria Limited, for instance. When the owner dies, it does not mean that the company has died, because the company and the owner are two separate entities, and we will get right into that. So perpetual succession, that law that we read also says that they can now own land in the name of that registered business. So not necessarily in the name of the managing director or the MD or the manager or the owner or the shareholders, in the name of the company. So far we have said that registration of a business in Nigeria, incorporation means registering a business in Nigeria as a distinct legal entity recognized by law to carry on business. That is incorporation. And now, if you're incorporating a company, you register the company with an organization called the Corporate Affairs Commission. The Corporate Affairs Commission is the licensed body for registering businesses in Nigeria for incorporation. We'll come back to the features of an incorporated company, but let's go over the types of company that you can actually incorporate in Nigeria. You can incorporate a public limited liability company. You can incorporate a private limited liability company. You can incorporate an unlimited liability company. And you can incorporate a company limited by guarantee. If you register it as a company, a public limited company, that means that you are going to be offering your shares to members of the public to purchase, and when they purchase it, they become shareholders. So in a way, you are sourcing funds from members of the public to run the company, and you're making them co-owners by the purchase of shares. So when they purchase shares, they are co-owners of the company. So it is a public company, and all the people who buy shares in it are called shareholders. They all own the company. But before you can register this type of company, there are so many things that you need to fulfill, requirements, orders that you need to cross. So, but it's also one of the major types of registration that people undergo in Nigeria. Also, that businesses undergo in Nigeria. We also have companies, private limited liability companies. That means that it's privately owned. It could be owned by maybe 2 or 3 persons. So they are the ones pulling funds together to run that business. They're not asking for funds from the public in exchange for ownership, for co-ownership. No, they are funding it themselves. So it's owned by those few individuals. There are also rules and regulations to be complied with, before you can register this type of company, but it's privately owned. That's the most important feature. Also, you can register a company that's limited by guarantee. This one is usually for NGOs, charitable organizations, non-profits or not-for-profit organizations. So they will have a board of trustees who will oversee the affairs of the company. Usually, they do not generate profit, or when they generate profit, they return the profit into pursuing the goals of the company while the company was established. These companies, this type of company in Nigeria, they have to receive the approval of the Attorney General of the Federation before they can be registered. And usually they do not generate profit. That means that whatever proceeds they make from whatever business they are doing is returned into running that business. So it's not as if they will share the profits. The owners will share the profits. So it's usually used for the type of businesses or entities that register or incorporate as such are churches, non-governmental organizations, orphanages, as the case may be. So they do not share profits, but they return the profit into running the company, whatever profits they make. So it's limited by guarantee. And then we have unlimited liability company. That's a big company, and it's usually used by parent companies that intend to have subsidiaries. So the liability is very unlimited, so it's not good for small businesses and whatnot. So these are the 4 types of companies that we have in Nigeria. So when a company has been registered, what does it mean? Whether you're registered as a public limited liability or a private limited liability company, or an unlimited company, a liability company, or you're registered as a company limited by guarantee. So let's talk about the features. When we say a company has been incorporated, what are the things conferred on the company by virtue of incorporation? That is, if 2 of us start maybe selling phones now, for instance, or camera, for instance, and then I go on to incorporate a camera selling a camera business, maybe a camera selling business, and I go on to incorporate my own company, Livingstone Cameras Nigeria Limited. What will differentiate me from the other person that I started with that has not registered his or her own company. Won't talk about that. And I've briefly mentioned ownership, land ownership. I've talked about being sued and being able to sue in the name of the company. So essentially, the company becomes an artificial person. That means that in the eye of the law, the company is a person on its own. But because it's not a natural person, that's why we call it an artificial person. Everything a natural person can do under the law, the artificial person can also do it. And what are some of those things? Those are we've talked about land ownership, we've talked about being sued and being able to talk about perpetual succession, which means that if a member of the company died, maybe 2 or 3 people own a private limited liability. If one person dies, the company does not fold. That's not the end of the business. So there's perpetual succession. There's a procedure for the transfer of the shares and the ownership of that person to the appropriate persons for the company to continue to run. So perpetual succession is one of the features of an incorporated company. Another feature of an incorporated company is employment of employees. So a company that's incorporated can employ its own employees, and it could even employ its own members. That is, maybe if 3 people started the company, they can even employ one of them as an employee of the company, and it will be recognized by law. So one of those things that an incorporated company can do is employ employees. They can sue and be sued. They can buy assets, buy land. They can enter into contracts as if an ordinary person was entering into, a natural person was entering into contracts. So they can own assets in the name of the company. Assets can be owned. And being sued and being able to sue in the name of the company, another feature of an incorporated company is that it can now bear criminal and civil liability just like an ordinary natural person. But it's the only difference is that for criminal liability, for offenses, whereby, for instance, the punishment is imprisonment. You cannot imprison a company because a company is an artificial, person, not a natural person. But when we talk about offenses like, say, fraudulent practices, generally, maybe fraudulent trading, tax evasion, any fraudulent activity, the company will bear liability just like an ordinary person will bear liability. Also for civil actions where an employee or a member of the company is acting on behalf of the company and has committed, a civil wrong, you can sue the company to get redress. You can sue the company to get redress. So these are some of the features and also advantages of incorporating a company. There are some other advantages, if you recall the session we had with Chimezie, the CAC doctor, when he came on the channel. He talked about the advantages of registering your business, and he talked about being able to open a bank account, in the company's name, a business bank account. It's important, which means that if the company needs a loan, or if maybe you're bidding for a grant, or you need investment, for instance, you're looking for investors, it makes your books and your pitch solid, to know that you have separate financial records, separate from the people that actually formed or created the company. So also it's registering or incorporating your company gives it a good standing in the business community, such that of course you're able to attract investors, customers, you're able to build a corporate reputation that can stand the test of time, that does not die with members, with individuals working in the company or working for the company, and that can actually outlive even employees, members, and founders of the company. So that's another thing that incorporation does for your business. Of course, it gives your business recognition before the government, so the government knows that you're in existence, and you'll be entitled to some of the benefits that the government may give out. For instance, during the pandemic, that the government gave out some grants, and there were some international grants for companies. I was working with a small business at the time that had been incorporated, so we're able to apply for one of those grants using our certificate of incorporation. So that's another thing that incorporation does for you. People who are giving out monies to businesses, they want to see that you're a solid affair. So incorporating your business as that benefit does that for you. So how do you really incorporate your company? The first step is to go on the CAC website. You should probably employ a lawyer or someone that's an incorporation expert to do this for you. If it's something that you want to do, our guest, if you watch the video, the session that we had on incorporation of businesses in Nigeria, I'll link it in the description box. You can talk to our guest. That's his forte. He will do it for you. or if it's something that you want to do for yourself as well, if you feel you're capable or you have the know-how. So the first step is searching. You decide the name that you want your company to bear. So you search the name on the CAC's website to confirm that another business has not been incorporated with that name, or a name that is so similar that it might deceive people or confuse people. Remember Niger Chemist and Nigeria Chemist? That's another episode. You should go and watch it if you haven't, or you should go refresh your memory even if you have seen it before. So it's talking about passing off. There was a company that was already Niger Chemist, another one now came and said they are Nigeria Chemist. So you search your business name to avoid situations like that. After searching, then you reserve a business name. So CAC will approve it when it sees that it does not contradict any of its guidelines and there's no existing company or business that has that name or a name so similar. After the reservation of name, then you proceed with the incorporation proper, where you upload all the requirements that CAC will ask you for, probably the articles of association, the MEMATs, memorandum of association, articles of association. You upload the list, the names of your directors, their passport photographs, their means of identification, and all the other things required by CAC. After which you would now wait for registration. When CAC notifies you that the company has been registered, CAC will send you the certificate of incorporation, and then you have your number, incorporation number, and the name that has been approved by CAC. Then you would have your Houseoflivingstones Nigeria Limited or Unlimited, and then you will have all the other things that CAC will provide to you in the certificate. So after that, you can say that your business has been registered, your business is incorporated. It is different from a business name. A business name, registering a business name is just like you reserving that name to notify the whole world that you are the first in time to be doing business in that name. So you don't need to go on to incorporation if you don't want to. And it's different from incorporation because that one is just registering your business name. It could be a solely owned business. You don't have to have stocks or shares, or have like a share capital, like a minimum share capital or anything. That's just the barest minimum. You're just registering the business name so that if someone wants to do business with you, for instance, they will know that you're registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission and that you are a going concern. But incorporation is different, has different benefits. So you don't have all the benefits that we've mentioned when you just register a business name. That's one of the differences as well. So that's incorporation for you. In our next corporate law, company law video, we're going to talk about another topic entirely. If you have questions or if you have follow-up topics that you want us to talk about in relation to incorporation, you can leave them in the comment section and I will see you in my very next video. Don't forget to subscribe to those.